Guys, it's Talon. Today we're going to be coaching a Riven player, mainly focusing on efficiency, farming better in the jungle. If you guys are interested in coaching yourself, it's just $15 an hour. Just DM me through the link in the description to my Discord server, or just add my Discord Talon1169 if you're interested in getting coaching from a sovereign rank 5 autofill player. And let's get right into the coaching.
Yeah, just from watching and kind of listening, it seems that that's the most pivotal role to be able to make an impact. So
Yeah.
I try to at least take matters into my own hands, and sometimes that goes well, and sometimes not so well. So
Yeah,
that's
also, if you want to change the vision so we would only see what you see, just pause real quick, and
okay.
then in the top right, the 3 little bars, if you click those, and then the one to the left of that, yeah. And then click the top thing, like the blue vision, the fog of war. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, getting a little carried away with the fat finger there.
So what
Let's
made you want to
see
start
here.
blue side here, this game?
Let me see here, man. Oh, get a little carried away. So. Just kind of going again back into, what I've heard and just, watching some stream and stuff. I always try to kind of look at, the enemy team going in and
Yeah,
see here. I saw that they had, let's see, is it a vein?
yeah, it looks
Flux
like Vayne,
bottom?
and then I think
Dragon
it's
Lane?
probably Seraphine. Since they have heal, it must be
Seraphine?
Seraphine
Yeah,
support.
that's right. So, I was kind of thinking with Aatrox and Chemo top. I knew Aatrox had a little dash, maybe a little bit harder to gank. So I was kind of thinking, trying to maybe get a little jump start on helping out that bottom lane with, Vhagar having his little stun or
But if you
whatever. And
start blue side, you're gonna end up on the bottom side, which is where your emo is. So you'd
uh,
be
yeah, mm, yeah, you're right, actually.
And so yeah, I agree
Well,
with like the
well,
assessment you made there that I would rather path towards the duo lane because Aatrox is
right.
relatively hard to gank and Teemo doesn't have good gank setup. Whereas Caitlyn's gonna usually have a lot of pressure in lane, and then Vhagar can cage them. So yeah, I agree we should path towards duo lane here, which is why I would prefer starting red side. And then an additional thing to keep in mind is enemy jungle, and usually enemy jungle starts red side, meaning we only want to start blue side if we want to match them, but Volibear's early game is pretty hard to fight, so we'd also want to start red side so we're not fighting him on Scuttle at level 3.
He's pretty strong early game.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
you are strong early game too as Riven, but it's just like the Volibear is going to be, it's going to make it a bit harder, so I'd prefer as well. So yeah, I would start red side this game
Yes, I
typically.
guess in my mind, that's what I was thinking. I
Yeah,
guess
yeah,
I just did the opposite. So, but yeah, I try to, take the time to at least kind of get a game plan going in. But I guess I
yeah,
just completely went against what I was thinking here.
yeah,
So,
yeah. And you can start it now, by the way. So. I mean, but that's good though. Like when you told me about it here, like you had the correct reasoning. So I mean, clearly, like we know it was probably just like a little mix-up, and it happens. But yeah, in general, this game, I mean, our team scales really well, so like we don't have to force too much, unless there's something specific that we can look for, anyways.
okay. Try to get a little bit better at, I try to be aware of the map, but also try to kind of prioritize just, getting my farm going and
Yeah.
just really trying to make that a priority.
I mean, Riven is like an insane champion right now. I mean, in general, farming is really what matters on jungle. Like your laners, especially in the lower ranks, are just gonna kind of be doing weird shit, and you can't really worry about them too much unless you see easy kills, basically, or you don't have camps up and then you have time to make plays. But because even here we see Volibear is like weirdly already going top side, so this ends up being good for us because we know he's wasted time and we see him on the top side. So after you clear the full red side and then you get Scuttle, you're gonna be level 5. And having that advantage when you know he's wasting a lot of time, but again you see him here on the map, you know he's wasting time. It means you could possibly look for an invade when you're level 5 and he's level 4. But obviously he then does go to boss Scuttle, so we're not going to get that Scuttle. But we still are going to have that gold lead because he's not really farming efficiently. And so that's something that we should keep in mind when we're looking at the map here. And one smaller thing as well that I would do there, like you play this fine, I would probably be dashing first and then trying to get a Q flash, you know, to surprise them more with my third, like my Q3. Does that make sense?
You know, that kind of final jump where you can hop walls and
Yeah.
such.
And also
Okay.
here, you should go farm your Krugs right away. Again, you have a camp up. It's better to just get that camp so it's more synced up with the rest of your camps, and then you can look for ganks or something after, because now we're kind of just losing out on that gold, so.
Kind of losing the tempo there a bit,
Yeah. But I mean, it worked out overall. I mean, we got the kill, so it is good. But yeah, because now if we want to farm the camp, we have to go all the way over there, and then our top side's going to spawn, and then it's just going to be like a lot of walking that we have to do. So it's just about the efficiency thing. It looks like for a second we were AFK here, but
Yeah, I think one thing I've really been trying to do is just kind of look at the opposing team, and those top few builds kind of give you a good starting point, but I try to learn the items and just look at the enemy team and think like, okay, what do I need to build here? So
yeah,
every once in a while I kind of get stuck at the base and think a
gotcha.
little too long and hard. So
And if you want to pause here for a second too, um, when you came out of base here, you went
hmm
towards the bottom side of the map, but you saw on your map on your timer that there was about 25-ish seconds left on your blue side, and also just generally
okay.
around 3 minutes is when your side that you first cleared is going to start coming back up. And so we're going to want to be walking and again focusing on that farm initially because you prioritize going for a kill and looking for a gank or something. And again, we should just prioritize that farm first because it's not only about getting that farm as quickly as possible, but when you kill the camp, it's then going to respawn quicker, meaning it comes up again the next time. And the way the cycles of the camps work, it's just going to be a lot like more efficient in the long run to be clearing them pretty much on spawn for your first two clears. And then we're going to be
Gotcha,
focusing on the
gotcha.
objectives after that. So you can start again, but that's,
Okay. See, I don't know if what I was maybe thinking there is like Lux was kind of pushing that wave, and I was just
yeah,
gonna kind of try to keep her from crashing it until my laner got back. But I
yeah,
guess
and
there's just certain times in the game where I'm like, I don't know if I need to be doing this or if I just need to be getting back to my camps. And
yeah,
one of the things I struggle with is you get to certain points and you're like, okay, do I just need to
yeah.
try, camp clearing, or do I need to try to help lane? Or
And here again, the kind of a similar thing. We got distracted when we should have just cleared our camps here, and now you get the kill, but it's not really worth it in the end because we die, and again, because now our camps are taking even longer to respawn, we're missing out on a lot of gold.
okay,
And also getting a kill makes us worth more gold versus taking the guaranteed gold that you're taking on that camp. Not to mention also, you're already right on top of that camp. So if you just keep clearing that camp and then you go here, it's a lot more efficient than even if you did get the kill, going and getting the kill, then walking back. You're increasing the amount of time that you're kind of wasting here. And so it's just a lot about your time right now. And again, a way to really think about it, like at one point I was learning jungle and I'd never really played jungle, and I tried to go solo queue from plat to challenger, and I got stuck in plat for a long time. And that was mostly because I was doing what you're doing here, which is you're farming some of your camps and then you're leaving more and going for fights every time you see someone make a dumb play and try to kill them. And the reality is there's almost always going to be a fight going on in low elo. Like that's just how it works. There's always stuff going on and fights happening. But when you're wasting all this time going back and forth and back and forth, and you're trying to, get every opportunity that you see a possibility for a kill, you're missing out on so much gold because again, this your Krugs, right? You have never even cleared them this entire game. You could have gotten like 300 gold from them throughout this game, and now you've gotten
okay,
0 gold from them. And then your Gromp has also been there for a long time. That's another 150 gold. That's also going to become more gold as the game goes on because when we don't clear it the one time, that means that it respawns even later the next time, and then your red buff, all of these camps are just up for a super long time. So like right now, it's pretty much just first two clears, like as in, you clear your blue side first, then you go red side, then you go back to blue side, back to red side. You pretty much off spawn, off cooldown need to kill those. Because if you kill all of those camps off cooldown with 0 kills in the game, you're going to be able to reach your first item as the jungler almost always, regardless. So it's really about getting that first item before the objective, and then it's convenient whenever there's a free kill that happens to show up after you've already cleared those objectives, because a lot of these ganks that you went for, you could have cleared your camps and then went and looked for them quickly. Maybe you see something, maybe you don't, and then after you spend say 20-30 seconds on that side of the map after you cleared that side, you recall and then you go to the other side after that. Does that kind of make sense?
yeah, absolutely.
Cool, cool.
I
Also,
think
what is,
sometimes,
yeah, go ahead.
as a jungler, you kind of are trying to make those quick decisions of like, okay, I know, this lane's gonna potentially, be frustrated if you don't come and get him a gank
Yeah,
in the
that's definitely
circumstances that
that
we
definitely
like. So
happens.
you're kind of pulled. You're like, okay, do I need to be doing this or do I need to be doing that? And so it kind of, I guess, makes it a little bit more challenging to make the right decision all the, circumstances you need to be making them in.
100% it does. Like it's very tough, and that's why I said like I got stuck in plat as a player who'd reached challenger at that point, even because of this same thing. Like it's a thing that a lot of people deal with and an issue we have. And again, it is the same thing that we see in this play as well. You had two camps up that you could have been farming that are guaranteed, but we're fighting on. We don't have prio there as well, so we don't have teammates to help because they're recalled, and so we also have to
Yeah.
pay attention to the positioning of our teammates there. But just in general, honestly, just mute chat, like turn on party chat, don't even look at it. If your teammates decide to run it down, that's on them. Especially in this low elo, we really can't control our teammates. Like, in higher elos, you can a bit more play around what we're thinking about in terms of like our teammates' decision making. But you absolutely like most of these people are either pretty new to the game or like 7 years old. Like they are not going to be making proper decisions, and so we really can't rely on that at all. And if they're gonna int, they're gonna int regardless. So.
That's fair.
And again, here we also go to a lane when. Don't worry about your lane's gold so much, especially before 7.5 minutes, because before that you're gonna get reduced gold. Just get the farm, and after we get the farm, that's when. So I just think, and again, I'm reiterating this point a lot because this is 100% just the major thing that we need to be focusing on as a jungler at the moment, and that is there's kind of an order of operations of how we want to do things, and that's pretty much always farm the camps when they're up. After the camps are up, we then look for ganks or turrets, and then we're going to look for the best type of gank. So the best type of gank is often going to be around a turret, like a low turret, for example, because then you can play for getting that turret after you get the gank. And then the only time that this kind of changes is when objectives are spawning within the next 30 or 40 seconds. And then our priority kind of shifts to, well, now I want to get vision around the objective. I want to make sure that I'm with my team so that if they're fighting right before the objective, I'm there so that we can actually win that fight and get the objective. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think that I need to, like you mentioned, just kind of prioritize because I have noticed there will be times where, I have a fair amount of kills and I feel like I'm
Yeah.
doing okay. And then I'll look at the gold and I'll be like, man, I'm, just even with all these people on my team that have far less kills than me. And so I'll kind of try to be like, okay, know, prioritize just farming and getting your items up, and then when the time's right, then the team fights can take place and successful follow-up.
Yeah. And that is the thing too. It's like the way that I think about jungle is, and the way I think about solo queue, I'm trying to improve my win rate by as much as possible. I'm not trying to win every individual game because 30 to 50% of your games are like unwinnable. Like you just can't control the outcome. And so my goal is just to play as consistent as possible. So every time that I get into a game that is winnable, I'm going to be as strong as possible and in the best position to carry those games. Like when my laners are so bad that they're all losing lane before 5 minutes, so hard that like I have to either gank them 20 times or they're just going to lose lane, like that game is already pretty much unwinnable if all my laners are doing that. And so when I'm like over focusing
Yeah.
on trying to gank them and help them, it's just we're going to lose that game anyways. And again, yeah, you're right. When you do end up getting those kills, which only happens, maybe 30 to 50% of the time, even when you're playing the style that you're playing, you're only getting fed in those games, right? But if we're playing it the way that I'm talking about, then in like 70 to 90% of the games, we're always going to have a ton of gold. And then in those games where we do end up getting some kills as well, we're going to be like 5,000 gold ahead of everyone. And then it's just unlosable. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing I need to work on is just dying less. I feel like I do get caught inting a bit more than I
yeah.
need to, and I even, try to take note of it mentally. And sometimes you just get a little hyper focused and carried away, and you're like, okay, I need to correct that. And you kind of,
Yeah.
make those little fine tune adjustments. But
And that's the nice thing about playing this like farm heavy playstyle is you can make more ints because you have more gold, so it's harder to mess up because you're just a lot stronger, and so it's harder to get punished by that. And when you're doing this, you're also always thinking about something else, so you always have some things. You're not getting distracted by a random fight that doesn't matter because you're always thinking about the farm and the gold and all those things like that. So
Yeah, I really don't know what I was doing there. I kind of walked out into lane and started farming a bit, and then walked back into three people.
Yeah, and again, it's just the same thing that keeps coming up. It's just the gold. Like that's like really the entire like jungle is such a straightforward rule once you kind of get it down. Because it's really just like as simple as I'm taking my camps when they're up, and then once an objective's coming up, then I'm gonna go actually look for that. And you know, once all my camps are gone, that's when I get to make the plays. And so again, you're just making a lot of plays before the camps are killed. And if you just make the plays after the camps are killed, then even if you do die and they don't work out all the time, it's not that big of a deal because you've already gotten all these camps anyways. So you're still gonna be a lot stronger. You're gonna be more likely to win those fights. And then when they don't work out, you're not losing as much because you're not wasting more time since all of your stuff's already been cleared. And then you are also not very aware of your teammates' locations a lot of times in these fights, which I think is the other thing that's important.
Okay.
Because a lot of times you've gone in on fights where you don't really have very good like follow-up. For example, here like, this is a good engage because like obviously you know your teammates are nearby. Some of the earlier plays, we'd gone in on 1v2s, 1v3s, trying to get an objective that was unwinnable because our teammates weren't nearby. And we just need to pay a lot more attention to kind of the locations of our teammates for sure. So.
I think that's somewhere I definitely, struggle a bit is like as the game transitions, clearly we're down a good bit in kills and gold here. And, whenever those, I guess, main objectives drag in, whatever it may be spawns, it's up. Like, I guess, if you don't have teammates there and you're uncertain exactly where the opposing team is, it's like, is this worth trying to get at this point, or do I need to gather more
Yeah.
information? Make sure I have some backup.
Yeah, and so the first thing about objectives is that we want to be like setting up for the objective 30 seconds before. So that means making sure you recall for the items that you have, if you're sitting on gold so that you're as strong as you can be, and then going to that objective and using your sweeper to get vision around the objective so you know what they can see and what they can't see. And then for the first objective, the one at 5 minutes, we want to make sure that we're playing towards our strong lane. So if you have a lane that's winning, you're going to want to play towards that objective. And when, again, in this game, you went to the Teemo side, and the Teemo was, being really bad feeding, and so you didn't really have an advantage there. And when you're doing that, then you don't really have as much help because your teammates are obviously a lot weaker, they're losing lanes, so the enemy are naturally going to be there first. And so generally when we're able to do those types of things, it's going to make it a lot more likely to win. And then additionally, all you need for a game is to get one dragon, so you deny the soul, which means if the enemy are, looking like they're going to win the first dragon fight, just leave it. Like, it's not a big deal, because that doesn't really matter. All that matters is that you don't lose all three, because any individual dragon is not very valuable. So. Like, the only objectives that you can't lose are pretty much just Baron and Elder. But even sometimes in early Baron, you can give up if it's like, one like a 12 to 14 minute Baron. And you're probably just going to die if you go there, you can even give that up if you have to. So.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, generally I would just say right now when you're going in your games, I just need you obsessing over your own camps and then thinking only about the rest of the stuff that you can do after those camps are dead. And I still want to also emphasize that there's always nuance to the game, and I'm not saying that you should literally only ever farm your camps when they're up and like never go for anything else. Because there certainly are scenarios where someone's so close by and it's such a free kill that you can just go and take it. But I do, for the next 10 or 20 games that you go into, want you to really, really overemphasize on just focusing solely on getting your camps wherever they are and always paying attention to those timers. Because even here, you should have been on the bot side first, probably getting your red buff, and then you could go,
Getting my red buff.
Yeah. Because your team's not setting up for the objective anyway, your team's not nearby, so we can't really do it. And also, as we spoke about, each team has one dragon right now, which means this dragon does not matter, because nobody can get soul.
Okay.
So it's just, this is a useless dragon. Which brings me to my next point, which is important to talk about as well, because we're down a lot of gold in this game, and I assume we're aware at this point in the game that it's, going to be very hard to win. And so when it's a game where it's this hard to win, the best thing that you can do is play for objective bounties and play opposite side of where the enemy are going to be. So for example, in this scenario, they're probably going to come dragon, right? Because usually people go for the dragons. And so what you should be doing is going to the bottom side and playing to create an odd man advantage on somewhere, since you're probably going to lose the fight at dragon. Now you end up winning it. It shouldn't have happened. They played really poorly and so it worked out. But in general, playing towards that bot side when the enemy are going to be on the dragon, and then you can kill that Aatrox and then go for the the bot turret as well and get that gold bounty. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Just kind of, I guess, in a sense of mirroring what your opponent's doing. If they're contesting that, it's not looking favored, then
Yeah.
maybe just do the opposite so you can at least secure something.
Yeah, it's just yeah about cutting your losses and getting something. And again, the gold bounties make it worth a lot more because you were down a lot of gold, so that's why they're also more valuable. Also, again, you started the Baron when your team wasn't even very nearby. That's another thing about the awareness of where our teammates are located. That would never be possible. So this, and then just kind of got you a little bit lower and could have been more risky if they ended up showing up. So
I guess what my thinking was at that time, there was like four enemies down for at least like 15 to
yeah,
20 seconds. And I was kind of trying to just like ping to indicate to my team, like,
yeah,
hey, let's try this. But I guess by the time they got there and the enemy spawned, the likeliness of us securing it, it could have
yeah.
easily
And
just been sold and us all just been wiped.
if your team was aware of it early, like they should have been, then it would have been the correct call to do it. It's just that since they're not aware of it, then we have to be like, okay, we can't do it, and that's all that I'm saying. But 100%, yeah, like you could have done it had your teammates been more aware of it for sure. It's just like the reality is a lot of times our teammates, they're not going to follow on the things that we want. And so we ping them and we try to encourage them to go there, but if they're not there, then we just can't be starting it, for example. And now the Elder Dragon's up, so that's kind of the game losing objective, and since our teammates are dead, it's pretty much unwinnable. So frankly, what I would be doing, I would go to the Elder, I would sweep somewhere, try to find a bush there, and just magically get a steal, like try to just hover there and get there right before them so that they don't see me, and then try to get kind of a miracle steal. It looks like you were thinking about build again, or I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think I was looking at items.
Yeah, and so maybe we'll need to talk about the build then so that you're able to do it quicker, because a couple times we kind of wasted a lot of time with that. So that is one thing that I actually was coaching a Riven like a week or two ago, and then I DM'd my friend who's been top 1 Riven about his build, and so I can send you the screenshots of he typed out kind of explanations for the builds, so I'll send you that.
Awesome, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, just remind me in case I do forget, but I'll try to remember, obviously. And yeah, again, this is the awareness of the objectives. Once again, like I told you, about 20 seconds before the objective.
Should be clearing up there.
Yeah,
And
we always need to be aware of that. And the Elder, again, is the most important one, so.
I think I'm looking at builds, thinking here again.
Yeah.
I was really contemplating, like obviously anti-heal for Aatrox, and then I know Lux has some shielding, and I don't know Seraphine super well. I kind of have a
It does
basic
shield as well,
grasp
yeah.
of her, but yeah, I was thinking, does she have shields? So I was trying to decide, like, is anyone else gonna build a Serpent's Fang or like Mortal
Serpent's
Reminders?
Fang would be an okay early item here in this game, like maybe a first or second item, but it's not really a good late item because the flat penetration becomes a lot worse the later on in the game you go, because at this point people have so much armor that taking off 15 of their armor is just a very negligible amount. So if you like really notice late game that you need it and you're like, oh my god, these shields are losing us the game, then maybe you would build it, but generally it'd be an early item that you would build if you're going to build it. At this point, when they go on our teammate, yeah, we should go a little earlier, but this fight's kind of lost at this point.
I think one thing I was, a little struggling with in this game is I don't really think we had much of a front line, so
Yeah.
I was kind of trying to be the person to maybe, engage and be that individual. And sometimes it seemed like, okay, we've got the team around us, and then sometimes, like you said, I think I was just a little clueless in everyone else's positioning. And
Yeah, and I think
1v2,
that's a good thing
1v3.
to talk about, though. I'm sorry to cut you off. Just to answer your question, like when we don't have frontline and we're kind of the one who engages, that being early to objectives becomes infinitely more important, because if we're able to get in the objective first, like not actually start the objective, but go around bushes around it, we have to make sure they don't have vision, then the enemy has to walk into us, and so we're essentially not having to engage because they're just going to walk into us, and we can, surprise them and one-shot someone. And so the best way to play around that is to be really quick to these objectives and have the vision around them early so that we can then surprise them and stuff. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just being more efficient with the camp clearing and
Yeah.
definitely take the time to kind of learn the timing of the refreshing of the camps and just
So small
prioritizing
camps will
being
respawn
efficient.
at about 1 minute and 50 seconds. They take up to respawn, and buffs take about 230. Not exactly, but like roughly 150 and 230 for how long
But
they take.
after clearing,
So yeah, after you take them. So that's just something to keep in
okay.
mind.
So I guess you can, like you mentioned earlier, getting through that first clear full jungle, and then about what you said, about a minute and a half, 2 minutes later, should be coming back up, and then first
Exactly.
dragon herald's about five. Is that right?
Okay, so I'm gonna start writing on this then. So the first thing again, it's the thing that we obviously spoke about the most, which is gonna be efficiency in clearing. So just always clear your camps before focusing on other things. Um, and clear towards plays. So what I mean by clear towards plays is like you clear an entire side of the map and then you're going towards like say the bot lane, right? So that then you can look for a quick gank on the bot lane rather than getting distracted, mid camp and then going somewhere else where you see a kill. So kind of like make it being more intentional about where we path towards, and then spending some time for that gank, but then obviously going back once our camps come back up, stuff like that.
So I
And then if you
guess
have
in
questions
a
ever, yeah,
situation,
yeah,
like if I'm clearing a camp, like let's say I started blue side, and I'm kind of finishing, my wolves there. Not wolves, I'm sorry, the Krugs, is that correct?
on your blue side,
Not
your
Krugs.
Grom.
So like I do my, I'm trying to think of what they're called. Not rafters, is it? Right there at the bottom, uh, by red buff.
Right by red buff is to the left of red buff is Raptors, yeah.
Then what's to the right below that? The
Krugs, like the rocks, the Krugs, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, like, let's say I'm clearing that, and I see my team fighting clearly, and in that moment, do I just finish clearing my camp and then go get involved, or do I just disregard the camp at that
So that's gonna
time
depend on like
to go
how far
involved?
away it is and how likely it is that your team wins without. So for example, you made that, right? You left your Krugs the last game to try to kill, but
Mm-hmm.
that Gragas was already basically dead. Like he was pretty much guaranteed to be dead. And so in that scenario, you're just wasting your time. In a
Okay.
scenario where it's a 3v3 fight, and if you go there, you can change the outcome of the fight, and then the game is like gonna be an amazing spot. In that scenario, you might have to give them up. But the difference is after you give it up and you go for that fight, you need to go back to your Krugs right after. Because what you've done both games, because you've given up your Krugs, you then go to mid and look for more plays. And once you look for that one play, you gotta immediately go back. And you gotta be like, damn it, like I had to give that up, that sucks. But like it's better for the team, so I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna go back right after instead of continuing to get distracted afterwards. You know?
Getting distracted and kind of just pursuing like wishful thinking plays.
Yeah. Okay. So the second point
Okay.
is just paying attention teammates' locations when making plays. And again, that's something we talked about more specifically. So I'm not gonna go too extensively into it, but uh, times on the objectives where our teammates were nowhere nearby and we went in 1v2 1v3 wasn't really very
Mm-hmm.
valuable. Other times where you're invading, stuff like that. So yeah, then after that, for objectives, not overforce them when your team is not nearby. All you need is one of the 3 dragons, and no objective apart from maybe Elder or Baron late game is worth dying over. So basically,
Okay.
almost never kill yourself for an objective when you know it's like your team's all gone. There pretty much no way that you can get the objective unless you get a miracle steal. The only time going for that miracle steal is worth it is when they're on the Elder and if they get Elders, they're pretty much just gonna win the game. Or maybe if it's late game
Yes.
and they're gonna get the Baron, then like those scenarios are the only times where you're really gonna kill yourself for it.
Okay.
Okay, then we'll try to think what else we spoke about because again there wasn't as many bigger things. There was like the small thing with the flash that I'm thinking about where just try combo. You know what I
The
mean when I say
ribbon of the
Q3?
last
Yeah.
Q.
Q3 is what I mean by like the last Q, yeah, with flash. More often instead of like flashing first, it's just gonna be a bit quicker. Like mechanically, it's just gonna be a bit better.
So when would I want to incorporate the Q3 with the flash is what you're saying?
Yeah, so anytime that you need to close the gap on someone, it's just going to be quicker than flashing and then queuing because they're going to be able to flash and react, right? So it's basically when someone's too far away for you to just go on them with your dashes, but you still want to go for them and try to kill them. You're going to use your Q3 with flash.
Okay.
Let's see. Did we talk about any other specific things? Because again, this was more of a... I'll just say generally like, this is something to keep in mind. It goes along with the first point, but when farming or I'll just write kind of I'm trying to say like the order of operation for jungle is first focus camps, then turrets, then when objectives are spawning, we give these things up in order to help with objective. Does that make sense? I know I typed it kind of weirdly, but
Jungle. Yeah, that makes sense.
okay. Yeah, I know I typed it kind of weirdly, but what else did we talk about? Okay, so also just the like setup for objectives 30 seconds before. Kind of again goes along.
So we know Dragon's gonna spawn at like 5 or
yeah, and you can
Herald,
always look on your
and
map, like on your mini your scoreboard to see when it's gonna spawn. So
and like let's say I do get there early and I'm, in a bush kind of just waiting or somebody potentially comes. Uh, None of my team is coming at that time and their whole team is coming. Do I just get the heck out of there and
well, yeah, you're gonna
get
be in a
back to the
bush and you're gonna
country or
have swept the
farm?
bush, so you're gonna know if they have vision or not. So Riven's very mobile. You're gonna be able to get out if no one's coming. And again, we're gonna spam pings so that our team hopefully comes. But yeah, if they're all coming and none of your team is there, then you just have to be like, okay, I'm gonna go out. And a lot of times you can go out and then go opposite objective, right? Because like in the scenario we spoke about in your game, there was no real chance of getting that objective. So instead of over forcing and trying to get it, we just go and get the opposite side now.
Okay.
So that's kind of actually something we could write about as well. The win behind, play on the opposite side of the enemy, play for turret bounties, and just again generally just creating odd man fights is going to be more valuable. And then lastly, play towards our winning lanes. So go for the objectives that our winning lanes are pathing towards, or rather path towards your winning lanes so that you can play around those objectives, because that's going to just make it much more likely for you to actually get it.
Yeah, that's one thing I definitely try to keep in mind going in game. And I think, like you had mentioned, I get a little scatterbrained and kind of just get lost in the
Yeah.
game and kind of chasing around random things. So definitely a solid area of
Okay, and
focus.
then unless you have any other questions, that'll pretty much be it for that. And then I can DM you the stuff for the builds quickly.
Awesome, man. Well, that sounds good. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So I sent it there. It's in kind of a weird order, but you'll be able to, I think, find. So there's like 3 builds that he sent there. The one that you typically use would be the one that has Smite, that has the Sundered Sky in it. And then it's Eclipse, Sundered Sky, Cleaver, Trinity, Mortal. And then obviously you can switch in like a Serpent's Fang or other things like that. But just generally, you don't want to waste so much time in base. So I'll also just write that real quick. Don't waste so much time.
Yeah, I think that last game I might have sat there for a good 25 or 30 seconds.
If you don't know what to buy, just buy something. Like obviously, ideally we know exactly what to buy, but it's better to not waste the time. And so I'll send you these notes then as well.